Hey mama, if you're listening to this, you might be carrying a secret that feels too heavy to speak out loud. You look like you got it all together, you serve at church, maybe you even lead a Bible study. You smile when you drop off the kids, but no one sees the other side of you, the one that comes out behind closed doors. At home, you are a completely different person. You yell, you explode, you scream at your kids, sometimes in their face. You tell them to shut up. You grab them too harshly. You throw things across the room. You smack them in anger, twist their ears, spank them in rage, and immediately after, you are hit with a tidal wave of shame. You cry alone in your room and you whisper, "God, what is wrong with me?" You feel scared and disgusted by your own reactions. You're terrified that someone might find out. You wonder if your kids would be better off without you. You feel unworthy, broken, and too far gone to be redeemed. You try to fix this on your own. You listen to podcasts, parenting books, download freebies, but nothing changes. You keep falling back into the same patterns, and it feels like you are stuck in a cycle that you can't break. You don't trust yourself anymore, and if you're honest, you are afraid of who you become. But here's the truth, Mama. You are not beyond hope. You're not alone, and with God's help and the right support, you can change. I'm Elizabeth, a mom of 4 and an anger management coach for Christian moms. And inside my Calm Christian Mom coaching program, I guide women just like you through a powerful transformation. This isn't shallow behavior management. We go deep. We address your triggers, your stress, your mindset, your nervous system, and the spiritual root behind your patterns. We invite God into every layer and walk hand in hand towards healing. In just 12 weeks, you can become a completely different mom, unrecognizable. One who leads with patience, not panic. One whose children feel emotionally safe around her. One who cultivates peace. This summer, I'm offering a Calm Mama Strategy Session, a powerful 15-minute one-on-one coaching session designed to help you uncover the root of your anger and receive spiritual, emotional, and practical support. It's your chance to experience what coaching is like with me before diving deeper into ongoing support. If we both feel like the full program is the next right step, we can talk about what that looks like for you. You don't have to keep living like this. Your family is worth healing, and so are you. Use the link in the show notes to book the Calm Mama Strategy Session.
Hi, friend. I need your help. Do you have 60 seconds? Have you left a review for the podcast? If Emotionally Healthy Legacy Podcast helped you become a better mom by managing your stress and your big emotions in a healthier way, I would be so honored if you took 60 seconds of your time to let me know how this podcast has helped you, or what you love about the show, or maybe your favorite podcast episode. In the show notes, there's a link with a video that shows you how to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. If you can leave a review for the show, it would be really helpful for me to get that visibility, increase my podcast reach, and help other moms find about this podcast. Also, it would help me feel encouraged to keep creating this content for you. Before you submit the review, take a screenshot of the review and email it to hello@emotionallyhealthylegacy.com to be entered into a monthly giveaway to win Emotionally Healthy Mom course. So, if you don't have an iPhone, borrow one from your spouse, maybe your kids or your friend or a coworker, and take a minute to leave a review. You can even do it from an iPad. You can even do it from your phone and your husband's phone. The more, the better. I would really appreciate this so much, my friend. Hi, friend. I wanted to introduce you today to my new friend, in-person friend also. Her name is Sandy Cooper. So Sandy is the author of 3 books. She's a podcaster and a Bible study teacher and a professionally certified home chef. She has been a wife to her husband, John, for 29 years. She's a mom to 3 kids, 16 through 23. Her oldest son passed away when he was 9 months old. She has been helping frazzled moms find peace since 2008 at the scooponbalance.com. She podcasts weekly at the Balanced Momcast from her home office in Florida, where she lives with her family. I am so excited for you to listen into this conversation. I invited her to my podcast to talk about social media boundaries and how social media affects our mental and emotional well-being in motherhood, and what can we do about it. So without further ado, I welcome Sandy to the show. I am so excited here to be with my friend Sandy, and we just spent probably 30 minutes trying to figure out tech issues to record this podcast episode because Sandy and I are doing this in person. She's sitting right next to me, and I'm so excited to introduce my new friend Sandy to you guys. Hi, Sandy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Elizabeth. It's so fun to be sitting so close to you using the same microphone.
Yes, we couldn't figure it out how to get 2 of them to work and record at the same time on the same computer. So here we are. And Sandy and I live in Jacksonville, Florida. And I met her because I took kind of like a scary step, and I reached out to a stranger I heard online on someone else's podcast, and she said yes, and we got together for coffee, and here we are recording an episode together. She is also a podcaster. So Sandy, what is the name of your podcast?
The Balanced Momcast.
Yes, and if you are a woman of faith and you need support and having more balance in your life, this is an amazing podcast. I actually listen to it myself every single week.
Yay.
I do.
Thank you.
I do. Okay, so Sandy, tell us something that you've been loving lately.
Well, I've got to say, you mentioned that we live in Jacksonville, Florida, and what I am loving is this weather. Like right now, living in Florida, this is the dream. We're recording this at the end of February, but pretty much from about October through the end of May, it is dreamy here. And then it turns into oppressive heat and humidity. So I know things are going to change, but for right now, loving this weather.
It is so beautiful. I went on a walk this morning with our little one, and it is so nice. It's like in the 60s, probably closer to 70s right now outside, but it's absolutely gorgeous. While my family in Minnesota is like, I looked at their weather today, it's -10.
No.
Plus windshield.
No.
And a ton of snow.
Nope. I know. I'm from Toledo originally, so I understand that weather as well. And I'm like, no, thank you.
Yes, I know, right? Okay, so Sandy, share us with a little bit about your story. How did you get where you are today? Because you are a podcaster and an author and a mama, and probably some other things outside of that as well, and a wife. So share with us a little bit your story.
Sure. Like I said, I am... did you want me to tell the story about social media or just who I am?
Just a little bit about you.
Okay, yes. First. Okay, so yes, Sandy Cooper, as you stated. And I am originally from Toledo, Ohio, born and raised there. And I lived in Louisville, Kentucky for 16 years. But this is my second time living in Jacksonville. We lived here at the end of the 1990s and beginning of the 2000s, and then left for a little while, but I wanted to come back. So we moved back in 2020, and hopefully this is the last move of our lives because I love it here so much. Married to John for almost 30 years.
Wow.
I know. That's what I'm saying because
you got to have some marriage advice, like for real.
All the marriage advice. That's a whole separate podcast.
Yes.
John and I met in high school, but we didn't we didn't get married till we were 25.
Oh.
So yeah, almost 30 years, which is crazy. And I have 4 kids. My youngest is 16. And then I have a 21-year-old, an almost 24-year-old. And then my oldest son, Noah, would be 25. He passed away when he was a baby. I am the author of 3 books. I have been blogging since 2008. And like you said, I'm the host of the Balance Podcast. So
Yeah. How many? So you have 3 books. What are the names of your books?
my most recent one is Mom, You're Amazing, and Other Things I Want to Tell You. It's a series of essays on motherhood. And my second book was called Is the Voice in My Head God or Just Me? And it is a Bible study on hearing the voice of God. And my first book was called Finding Your Balance, and it is an 11-lesson Bible study on finding your balance.
Those are wonderful. So we are going to link them below. So if you are interested, you are more than welcome to go check out those books. Okay, so I invited you here to talk about social media. And because I heard you on Stephanie Gass' show and you were talking about doing business without social media, and I was like, my ears like perked up. I'm like, okay, this is something new. I've been hearing from someone else like about how Instagram is just a time sucker and how it's just, you know, more than anything, just a time sucker, and especially for entrepreneurs. And then I did something scary. I took like a month off, and now it's been 6 weeks, and it just feels absolutely amazing. And I think more than anything, I noticed a change in my mental and emotional well-being.
Yes.
And time. So I wanted you to talk about a little bit how you got into being social media free, and then we're going to get into the benefits of that.
Okay, sure. Well, so I joined Facebook back in 2008 when it was like a brand new platform. I mean, it was only like a year and a half since the general public was allowed to join. And I joined right away, and it was the same year I started my blog. And so I realized pretty early on that not only could I find every single person that I had ever known in my whole life, but I could also share my work pretty easily. And so I did that, and that was going really well for a long time. And so I was actively seeking publication in the early 2000s for my books, and I was told by publishers and agents that that building your platform on social media was really the primary metric that they were looking at that time. And so they gave me numbers to shoot for. And so I didn't know any better. And I was like, sure, I can do that. And they seemed doable at the time. They were like, we were looking for about 5,000. And I thought, sure, I can do that. And so I went all in. And I had 3 little kids at home at the time. So this just started consuming tremendous amounts of my time, because by the time like 2016, I had Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter. And I was trying to build this platform, plus keep up with everybody I had ever met, literally. And then my 2 older kids were just starting to open up their own social media accounts. So I'm trying to, keep track of that whole fiasco. And then also, as you know, like every single group, your kid's school, your church, everyone has a Facebook page that you need to follow if you want to know what's going on. And so I'm just like on it all the time. And so I started trying to draw boundaries around it, because I just realized like it was probably taking up 4 to 6 hours a day.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. But I didn't know how to not do that because of all those things. Like everyone was on social media, and I was given these numbers, and I thought, I can't step away. I felt trapped. And so I start trying to set boundaries. I start doing like you're doing, you take breaks, you take long breaks, take short breaks. I delete my apps on the weekends. I log off for Lent. I log off for January. I take a month in the summer. Like I'm just always trying to find a way to put really healthy boundaries around it so that I am not sucked completely in. And every time I went to go do that, it felt like equal parts, and you probably felt this, it's like equal parts excitement and fear. And because, if you like, you can't just get off, I'm thinking, like I say in quotation marks, like you can't, because everyone is there. And it's like the connection to your business, your life, your kids' lives, like everything.
You feel like you're missing out.
Yes. And you are missing out. Like there's a real fear there. And at the same time, I knew for myself that it was having a real detrimental effect on my mental health, which I have struggled with my whole life. And so dealing with depression and anxiety going into social media, I realized pretty early on the connection between when my mental health was good and when I was off social media. It was a pretty clear line. But I thought it was just my problem. And so I didn't realize that, and they didn't have studies. I don't think anyone realized early on what the effects were. And so, so fast forward to 2019, I'm really losing my mind on social media. Like I'm so frustrated with it. I am trying like crazy to whittle it down to the bare minimum because it's life sucking to me. I don't want to be there. By this time, my oldest daughter has moved out. My other son is a junior in high school. I have, another one coming up in the teen years. And I'm just like, I can't keep doing this. And so against the advice of everyone in the writing industry, I decide to take a 1-year break. And I log off on September 11th, 2019 to write my second book, the one about hearing God's voice. Ironically, because I needed to create time in my schedule. I knew that based on what my iPhone was telling me, I was averaging 2 hours a day using social media. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to take that 2 hours a day and I'm going to write my book. And I did. And so I'm off for longer than a year because Elizabeth, the year came and went and I didn't want to get back on because I got a real taste of what it was like to be off of social media. And it was really nice. And so I come back a little over a year later and again, mixed feelings because on the one hand, I missed people. There are certain people I only kept in touch with on social media, people I followed who were real life giving accounts. And I was excited to share my book with everyone and promote it because that's the only way I knew to promote the book. And yet I didn't want to come back. And so I get back on, I try to have all new boundaries and I do, I have fresh resolve and I get back on and I start sharing and I'm very structured about the time I'm there and just trying to do everything in a healthy, God-honoring way. And I'm just a couple weeks in and I'm just like, God, I hate it here. Mm-hmm. Like, I really don't want to do this. And I always choose a focus for the year. And my focus for 2020 at that point, my focus for that year was running unencumbered, like based on Hebrews 12, where the writer of Hebrews talks about laying aside every weight and sin that besets you and running your race. And I thought, this feels like a weight to me. And I asked the Lord, can I lay it down? Because I just don't want to be here anymore. And I didn't know any authors who were off of social media. And I thought, you know what, God, if we're going to do this, like, you're going to have to show me because I don't have anyone to follow who is doing this right now. And I just felt the Lord say to me, it is okay to lay it down. Like if it is something that is weighing you down this much, let's figure it out. And so on March 18th, 2021, I logged off completely and I've been off ever since.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think people don't realize how much, especially unless you're doing an online business, people don't realize how much energy, time, it takes mental capacity to show up regularly on social media. It takes a lot out of you. And there's plenty of days where you really don't feel like it, but you feel like this pressure that you have to show up because if you don't show up regularly and consistently, you're going to lose that following.
Right.
And people are going to forget about you. And so I know that for me personally, it was affecting me mentally. Mm-hmm. And then when you don't feel good mentally, you don't feel good emotionally. And most of the days I was okay, but there were lots of days that it was just affecting me mentally. So what do you feel is the biggest problem when it comes to just moms and social media? And not even specifically entrepreneurs, but just moms and social media. Because for me, I felt like it was addicting. Mm-hmm. I was spending a lot of time. It was like an escape.
Yeah.
And it was hard to be like, it was like overstimulating. So then like I wasn't as present with my family and my kids.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, all of those things. I kind of whittled it down to the top 5. There are so many problems affecting moms with social media, and we could really have this conversation for many, many hours, but we won't. But I mean, the top 5 that I have found that affected me, that in all the research that I've done, how it affects moms in general, and the moms that follow me that I have surveyed, that I have talked to, and even just doing things like this and talking to other podcasters who serve moms, these are the big top 5. So the first one is the time suck. The average person in the United States spends 2 hours a day on social media, and that was true for me. There are people like us who are also content creators who spend much, much more, because we're not just consumers, we're creators. And so, like you said, it's the time that it takes to create content and then respond to that content and then keep up with what is actually, getting engagement, plus then just the mom side of it, of just consuming. It's so much. So the time suck for sure. Secondly, and you touched on this, it makes you depressed, anxious, and lonely. And we can talk about the studies if you want on that. I have lots of data on that. It also, third, affects our ability to focus. It's rewiring our brains, because the sheer amount of information that we're taking in when our brains need a break, the research is now showing that it is affecting how we remember things, our ability to even concentrate, to the constant interruptions. All of that is affecting moms in a very detrimental way. And then fourth, and this is something that the whole documentary, The Social Dilemma, addressed.
Yes, I watched that one a while back.
Yes, but the collection of your data, and the way that they use that data for the purposes of, feeding the multi-billion-dollar machine, and also the way they then design the algorithm to be engaging to the most inflammatory types of posts, and then the way they feed those things to you to subtly change your thinking. Like, as a Christian, that is, that's more alarming to me, because we're told to guard our heart. And when we are just mindlessly consuming something that is not God honoring necessarily, or an algorithm that does not have my best interest at heart, that feels like a problem to me and for moms. And fifth, and this was a huge one for me as well, and one of the major reasons I finally just pulled the plug on everything, was that my kids are in the generation, and yours are too, of kids who have never known a life without social media. And you and I remember life before this, but our kids do not. And I felt a responsibility as a mom to demonstrate to my growing children, what a full and free life looks like outside of these mediums.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like for me also that you said, like, your kids are growing up in it. Our kids are growing up in it. And I was noticing that I was spending a lot more time on my phone than I wanted to. And our kids see that. I didn't want my kids to see their mom being on the phone so much. And I still feel like I'm on the phone quite a bit, just because it's part of my job and stuff, but like way less than I used to be. And I am grateful for that. And it was scary to take that step. I feel like for me, it's like I felt like I was literally missing out. Like everybody, I still have my accounts active, and sometimes I'll go on my desktop and see if there's any messages there, but I don't have it on my phone anymore. I deleted Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. I'm like, my husband's like, I can't send you any, videos. Sometimes you have funny things. Right. And I'm like, sorry, if you want to show me something, just show it to me, later or whatever, but on your phone. But I just noticed that I feel better mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I'm using this time that I'm not spending on social media to pour into, creating more helpful content, like podcast episodes for my listeners, but also using that time to connect more with God. And what I noticed is I feel less distracted. So normally I would sit down to either even in the morning, like read the Bible and stuff, but my phone's next to me.
Right.
And it's so easy to just want to pick it up and just scroll.
Just check. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
and it's
check.
like, and then you just get sucked in. It's like 20 minutes later, you're like, whoa, time just like passed. And then you feel like more anxious and restless and just more agitated versus like now it's like, I don't have anything to do on there. Legit. Like there's nothing. I even deleted YouTube.
Wow.
So then,
it's highly addictive
because I would go on YouTube Shorts. That's what I would do after I left social media. And so I'm like, okay, I need to set those boundaries because I see how it's affecting me positively now that I am off that social media. Okay. So we touched a little bit on what are like the benefits. So you have like a challenge that you have for moms to take a break of social media. And I'm sure you've had some feedback. What have those moms said to you about how they feel when they take that break?
Well, so it's a 7-day challenge, and obviously I would encourage women to take a break of any length because really 7 days is just the start. But if you've never taken a social media break before, 7 days is a good place to begin. But the women who have taken my challenge, I actually jotted down some of their actual comments that they gave me after they got done. A couple things that they said. One woman said, "I got more things done that mattered to me." One said, "This pushed me to stay off Facebook." Another one said, "The reminders, encouragement, and information were so eye-opening and helpful." This woman said, "Even though I'm still drawn to my phone, email, and apps, I have a much higher awareness that will help me continue to progress toward breaking the habit and addiction." They said it was clear and simple and encouraging. They talked about the benefits of the practical examples and activities each day because I kind of give them some things to work through, questions to answer and ponder, and a prayer. And I give them information, all those things those 5 reasons that I gave you that the negative effects of social media. I go into those a little bit deeper in the 7-day challenge. And so I give them actual data. I give them quotes from social media experts to just help them understand really how social media is affecting them. And because if you're going to engage with the platforms, my goal is to help moms go in with eyes wide open. Because just like you described, you were talking about how you just, you have your phone sitting next to you and you just mindlessly pick it up and check, and then 20 minutes go by. Elizabeth, that's by design. Like that is exactly what it's designed to do. It is a highly addictive platform. All the social media are highly addictive. And so my goal is if you need to use it for work, or you want to use it for personal reasons, or you want to use it for work or whatever, or you need to be there to monitor your kids, I have no issue with other moms doing that. I did not make that decision, but it took me years to get to the point where I am right now, taking so many smaller breaks. My goal is to just educate you and to help you create a little bit of distance between you and social media so that you can see how it's affecting you. And then you can go back in with eyes wide open and fully understand and be a little more educated and informed.
Yes. And I think I want to circle back a little bit about how it affects us mentally and emotionally, because for me personally, I would compare myself with especially other influencers that are growing platforms and they're doing better. And just even seeing other people's beautiful homes and going on vacations and this and that, and feel like I'm less than, that I'm not measuring up and feeling worse about my life. And that obviously and Satan's using those moments to give you even more negative thoughts, right? Yeah. To feed you with negative thoughts. And then that affects you mentally negatively because you have negative thoughts about it. And when you feel mentally negative, that affects you emotionally. Yeah. You emotionally feel, worse. And then when you emotionally feel yucky and icky, how do you show up as a mom? Right. You're more frustrated, you're agitated, you're snappy with your kids, if you're feeling, kind of anxious and stuff like that. And this is the whole thing that I talk about with my mamas. And I just recently recorded an episode and talking to moms about how being mindful what you consume on social media, even news, right? Like when all this negative information that brings more anxiety and fear and maybe even overwhelm, we consume that affects our thoughts, and it shows up and it spills out onto our families in negative ways.
Yeah. You just brought to mind one of the first extended breaks I ever took from social media was because the way I reacted to my young daughter at the time when I was responding to something on Facebook with someone that I barely knew. And we were having kind of a heated discussion about this controversial topic. And my 3-year-old was in the bathtub. And I'm sitting on the bathroom floor and I'm like furiously on my phone, typing this very well articulated response because I'm a writer and I'm a Bible teacher and like I can, again, all the air quotes. And my daughter wanted attention. Duh, she's in the bathtub. She's 3. And I'm getting so frustrated with her because she keeps interrupting me. Yeah. And all of a sudden I saw that moment for what it was. And I was like, oh my goodness, dear Lord, I am so sorry. And dear Eliana, I am so sorry. And that was my first, I took a whole month off at that point. I thought, what in the world is happening to me? And so yes, everything, like how am I showing up? Because obviously there's a lot of times that we as adults need to get things done. And I'm not saying kids come before every single thing we have to do. We have work, we have things we need to get done, and kids, need us and they can wait sometimes. But when it's social media stuff, like, and you're so agitated and irritated with your kids for interrupting you, again, in the bath, like that's not an interruption. Yeah. Like it's my job to bathe that child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yes, I did not like how I was showing up as well. And all the comparison that you talked about. I mean, there have been, when I first started feeling the effects of social media on myself, they didn't have studies yet. It was new. No one knew what was happening or how it was going to affect us. Now there are so many studies, like they just keep coming out. And I just want to read you too.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so there was a study appearing in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine in July 2017 concludes the more time you spend connecting on these services, the more isolated you become. So it's doing the opposite of connecting. You are becoming more and more isolated. And these are reputable publications, reputable studies that were done, clearly like under, I don't know the right terminology, I'm not a scientist, but another study appearing in the American Journal of Epidemiology in February 2017 concluded what we know at this point is that we have evidence that replacing your real world relationships with social media use is detrimental to your well-being. Detrimental. Like what other thing can you think of that if we've been told this is detrimental for you, would you then willingly take part? Like it just seems so, it's so counterintuitive. Like it doesn't seem wise,
Yeah, and the Bible tells us to guard our hearts.
Yes.
And this would be a great example of guarding our hearts. So you said you struggled with depression and anxiety. Did you notice a change with your depression and anxiety after you left social media?
Yes. So when I joined social media in 2008, I was in active treatment for depression and anxiety. I was in therapy and on meds. And I had just come out of a major depressive episode where I was barely functional after we adopted my youngest daughter. And so at first it was probably actually really good for me, honestly, because back then, I was connecting with people in a otherwise very isolating season of parenting because my 1-year-old, we adopted her from out of the country and she wouldn't let me put her down. And she wouldn't sleep without me. She wouldn't let me put her down at all. And I had 2 other kids who were 6 and 8. And so I couldn't function. And so I couldn't like go out to lunch or have friends over or whatever. And so at first it was probably good. But, a couple years in, it was not good for me. I can remember the big difference that I felt was like what you described of that constant desire to just keep checking. Like I just felt like I couldn't not check. I had to just keep, because as a content creator, I had to keep checking to see, did anyone see it? Did anyone respond? Did anyone ask a question? Did anyone comment? Did anyone? And then of course, like you have to keep rolling out things. And so it was more anxiety than it was depression for me, the effect that it had on me, because I just couldn't stop checking it. And even with all the boundaries in place, like taking it off my phone and trying to set boundaries like, oh, okay, I'm only going to do it in the evenings. It's just like anything. Like if you're addicted to drugs and then you say, I'm only going to take these drugs once a day. Like, or an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic, but I have alcoholism in my family. You can't just say, I'm only going to do it sometimes. Like alcoholics need to get off of alcohol so it was very similar like that for me. It was very anxiety provoking. And the biggest difference that I saw, honestly, was the focus, the ability to sit down and create long-term content, like long-form content, I think
I relate with that because I can sit down and be a lot more focused right now.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference. So back in 2021, when I first logged off, and I kept a friendless Facebook account. So I went through and I like manually unfriended all 3,000 of my friends. And that was like that's like a whole separate thing, but just a really good exercise in seeing the people who I was friends with for who they are and trying to remember, like, why do I know you? Do I know you? Like what, and then trying to decide how and if I should keep in contact with these people outside of social media. Anyways, so for the last 2 years, I've been just keep maintaining this friendless account so that I can stay connected to some Facebook groups, like other writers and things like that. Well, yesterday, because I was leading a group of writers who wanted to be off of Facebook, ironically on Facebook, because that was where we could connect because they're all in a Facebook group that I'm a part of. So I committed, like, after I finish that, I'm going to take some time completely away again, because like even just re-engaging on that level again made me feel so glitchy. So yesterday I deactivated my account, and I thought, because it's the beginning of Lent right now as we're recording, and I'm like, I'm going to just stay off and deactivate, maybe forever, but definitely until the end of Lent. And yesterday was probably one of the most productive writing days I have had in months, because I realized just having that tab open at the top, because I keep checking, because this group that I'm in, that I'm trying to help these women, I keep checking to see if they have questions, all in the name of building your platform outside of social media. Which is so funny. As I like say it out loud, I'm like, that's so dumb. It wasn't dumb, because there were hundreds of women, or 145 women who partook in that, which was great. But yesterday, my point being, the focus that I had just knowing that I couldn't check even if I wanted to was like, it was like total freedom. So that was the point. There
is definitely a sense of relief. I think like when I went off social media, like there was this part of me, I felt like I was missing out, but then I felt also like this relief that I don't have to like show up consistently and be on my phone.
Yes.
Like this pressure. So it just felt like I could just take a deep breath and just like release.
Well, and I'll tell you, one of the main things that helped me with the FOMO that you talked about is putting myself out there as the person who isn't using social media. So now that like I've kind of made the rounds on some podcasts talking about it, I was like, hey, I don't have to even maintain a friendless account. Like I can just get off, because everyone thinks I'm off anyway.
Yeah.
And so it really is, once you get over that hump of how am I going to survive without this, then it becomes much easier. And one of the analogies I like to use is, a couple years ago, just because I was not feeling well, I had some mild symptoms that I wanted to address. And so I decided to just try for 30 days a plant-based diet. And And I remember just trying to figure out, like looking at breakfast, lunch, and dinner and dessert, like trying to figure out, what am I going to eat if I take out all meat and all eggs and cheese and milk and yogurt? Like, what am I going to eat if I just remove all that? And then once I figured out, like, the number of plant-based foods are endless, and the combination of those are endless. And once I started exploring that and found out what I was going to eat instead, I didn't even miss those things anymore. It's the exact same with social media. Like, once I realized there were so many other ways, better ways to connect, like this, like me sitting next to you at the table and sitting over here with like our other new friend who just popped in here. This is so much better than like liking your post. You know what I mean? Like, it's 1,000 times better. And there's other ways to follow people that I get information from. And as a mom, you know, I can find out things not being part of the parent Facebook group. Like, the school has a website, the clubs have a website, like writers that I follow have newsletters. Like, I don't have to, and I can listen to their podcasts and hear their voices. It's like so much better. And so, yeah, I'm to the point now where, like, as a mom, as a creator, as a human, there is nothing about social media that makes me feel like, oh, I wish I still had that.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think for me, you inspired me to leave social media. Like, I'm not joking. You're the one that, like, when I heard your story, I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that thing. It's a hard thing, but I am willing to do that because I can see the benefits on the other side. Okay, Sandy, tell us about where our listeners can sign up for the 7-day challenge.
Yeah. So you can find everything about me at thescooponbalance.com. So on there is, you'll see the page for the 7-day challenge. There's also a free quiz on there, and it's at the top of the website, but it also will show up as a pop-up if you're on there long enough. And it's called, Is it time for you to break up with social media is the name of the quiz. And if you want to go straight to the page to learn about the challenge, it's at thescooponbalance.com/make-social-media-small. Or you can just go to makesocialmediasmall.com and it'll take you there as well. And just full disclosure, it's $7 to join for the 7 days. And there's an optional audio component. So if you'd rather listen to it rather than receive an email, you will still get the email, but you can click an audio component and I'll speak to you instead. So if you'd rather do that.
See, I would do that. That's
fun.
my language. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So where can our listeners connect with you?
Same place, thescooponbalance.com. And you, if you're a mom and you struggle with overwhelm, or you feel frazzled, or you are looking for balance, you can check out my podcast at the Balance Momcast.
Yes, it's amazing, by the way. I love it. I really enjoy listening to it. Thank you so much for being here. This was so fun.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed listening to this show, please, would you do me a favor and share this episode with a friend? I know that there are other mamas around your circle who are struggling with feeling overwhelmed and stressed out, and maybe even dealing with anger problems. So if there's anybody that comes to mind, please share my show with them, because word of mouth is one of the most powerful ways to spread the word, and I would be so grateful if you do that. Mama, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in the next episode.
Hey mama, do you find yourself snapping over the smallest things, like spilled milk or constant whining, then feeling horrible afterwards? If you're tired of losing your temper and you want to show up with more patience, I have something for you. It's a free training called How to Be More Patient with Your Kids so you're not screaming over spilled milk. Inside, I'll walk you through 10 simple things you can start doing today to become a calmer, more Christ-like mom, even on the hard days. To get it for free, just leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and send a screenshot to hello@emotionallyhealthylegacy.com. Or if you'd rather skip the wait, you can grab it right now for just $27 The link is in the show notes. Let's help you become the peaceful, patient mom your kids need.